Good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday. Welcome to the Week 11 episode of the walkthrough with me, Jamie Hoyle. As you can see, no guest for me this week. It's getting a little bit harder to find guests, so I'm going to kind of take a different tack for this week's episode and probably episodes moving forward. We'll talk a little bit about the Bengals offense and the Bengals defense and things to look out for. But more than that, we know that the NFL is a game of inches and it's a game of numbers, and the numbers often tell the story. And I wanted to kind of take a different approach for these previews and start talking a little bit about the numbers that tell the story of how the Chargers win this game. Um, I'm going to continue to do this, I think, for the rest of the season, just to give a different perspective on these game previews. Which we could talk about the opposing team's quarterback, and we could talk about the offensive line and the pass rush and the secondary and things the Chargers need to do schematically to win. But after a while, those things kind of start to run together, and the Chargers do. They have their game they want to play anyway. So let's talk. We'll start a little bit just talking about some obvious personnel and schematic things the Chargers need to be aware of. And then we'll get into the numbers and talk about some of the numbers that I think tell the story of this game. Um, so let's go ahead and just kind of start off with the Bengals offense. Not going to get too much into the X's and O's in terms of what the Chargers need to do defensively, but we are going to just talk about some things that I think are important. One of those things, obviously, Joe Burrow is playing at a high level, threw for almost 500 yards last week, putting up numbers just like he always does. Burrow's an extremely talented quarterback. He can beat you with his legs. He can get outside of the pocket and extend plays. He can, like he did a couple weeks ago, he can hurt you running downfield with his legs. And obviously, we know he can sit in the pocket and pick you apart if you let him do that. So, number one thing the Chargers have to do defensively to stop this Bengals offense is they have to affect Joe Burrow. Got to happen. There's no two ways about it. They have to not just get pressure on him, but they have to hit him early and often. Burrow is somebody who you can hit because he will hold the ball waiting for big plays. I think sometimes he trusts his ability to avoid pressure a little bit too much. And sometimes on tape, it looks like maybe he doesn't feel that pressure coming from certain areas. And we'll talk a little bit about that too. So, number one, they have, and this, you could say this about any game, but it's especially true with the Bengals. You can't let Burrow sit in the pocket and pick you apart. You could get away with that, to a certain extent with guys like Jameis Winston and Spencer Rattler. And last week with Will Levis, you could kind of let them sit in the pocket. And figure, eventually you're going to get to them. But with Burrow, you got to get to him early and often. You have to get to him quickly. You have to make him feel it, see it, and feel it. So I think simulated pressure is going to be a big deal for the Chargers. I also think where that pressure comes from is going to be important. From what I saw watching tape, it looks to me like a lot of elite quarterbacks. Burrow is pretty comfortable handling edge pressure. However, I did see some issues with him kind of seeing and feeling pressure coming from his right side. It's not so much the blind side pressure that he struggles with, it's the instant pressure from the right side that he struggles with. And I think um, Bengals right tackle Amarius Mim and left tackle Orlando Brown, who actually is banged up this week and is not a full participant, has not been a full participant in practice. Those two guys can get beat off the edge. Both of them very vulnerable to hard inside counters. So, something that's going to be important for the Chargers is getting their edge players upfield quickly and then having them double back inside through the B gap. I think there's a lot of vulnerability for both tackles in the B gap. Once you get them moving in one direction, it's hard for them to change and cover both gaps. So push them upfield, cut inside, attack the B gap. There's also a lot of opportunity to create interior pressure. And I think it's going to be important that while you need the Chargers edge rushers to get upfield and affect Burrow, they also need to remain disciplined, and you need to be able to collapse the pocket from the inside and just make him feel things closing in around him. Again, Burrow's a very talented quarterback. He's somebody who you're not going to just affect him by simulating pressure. You have to get to him. So I think, and we're going to talk about some of these numbers here in a few minutes, but certainly opportunities to get to Burrow in the B gap. And then once those tackles become conscious of the B gap, there should be opportunities to beat them around the edge. So that's going to be very important, and also collapsing the pocket from within. Um, for me, I think third down is going to be huge. And this is, you can say this is always the case, but the Chargers have been getting away with losing third down almost every week and still winning games. I think that's going to have to flip on its head a little bit this week. The Bengals are ridiculous, or at least in their wins, they're ridiculously efficient on third down. So got to put them in third and long situations and make them earn it for sure. And then I think, the biggest thing on the back end, and this is something the Chargers have been doing very well at the second and third levels, they have to mix their coverages up. They can't, I don't think they can be heavy zone. I think they need to play some man. They need to get their hands on the wide receivers. They need to kind of cloud or crowd the middle of the field and force the Bengals to find tight passing windows to throw into. You can't just let them pick you apart in the middle of the field. And you certainly can't play a too much man defense, because if Burrow recognizes that man defense, he will take off and run. And he's had some big runs this year running against man-to-man coverages. So you have to be able to mix things up and keep him guessing. And I think, that blitz is going to have to get home. Hopefully you can win with 4, but if not, they're going to have to be really creative and very effective with the blitz to get home and affect Burrow. When the Chargers have the ball on offense, there are 2 guys in particular that I think they need to be hyper aware of. The first one is obviously Trey Hendrickson, the Bengals' likely all-pro defensive end. Hendrickson has 11 sacks. He's tops in the league in pressures created. He is, you watch that defense, and there isn't a whole lot about them that stands out, but Trey Hendrickson really leaps off the screen when you watch the Bengals defense. So you have to account for him on every play. I think you have to throw extra bodies his way. I think that's kind of why we saw the Chargers make that move from Eric Tomlinson to Brendan Fisk last week, to kind of start getting him ready for this matchup. I think you're going to have to see a lot of extra bodies on whichever side Hendrickson is lined up on. Whether that's running backs chipping, whether that's keeping a Matlock or a Fisk or a Will Dissly on whichever side he's on, creating some motion, just make him earn his way up the field. You can't give him one-on-one matchups. I know we love our tackles here with the Chargers, and they have played extremely well for long stretches, but I think it would be a mistake to leave them on an island play-to-play with Trey Hendrickson. He's just too good. That's not a situation that's going to work out for you in the long run. The good news is if you take Hendrickson away, they do not have much of a pass rush. Hendrickson has 11 sacks on the season. As a team, the Bengals have 17 sacks. So everybody else, whether you're talking about Sam Hubbard or their interior guys or Joe Asai or whoever you're talking about, all of their other defensive linemen, linebackers, interior linemen, edge players have combined for 6 sacks. Lots of guys with a half a sack or 1 sack between them. So take Hendrickson away, make the other guys on that defensive line beat you. The other guy that I would be somewhat concerned with is BJ Hill. They're very talented defensive tackle for the Bengals. I think Hill is playing some pretty good football. He's always been a guy who is able to create pressure on the interior. And just with the way the Chargers interior has played, whether it's Bozeman, whether it's Zion, whether it's Salyer or Pipkins, those 3 have just really struggled. And I think, 2 of the 3 have really struggled. I think it's going to be really important to get 2 hats on BJ Hill and make somebody else beat you inside. Um, so I think those are kind of the keys. If you can control those two guys up front, that defense doesn't really do much in terms of creating pressure. I think you can give Herbert some time to throw and make some plays down the field. Um, and I believe the Chargers have what it takes to make some plays in the passing game and create some points. So those are the big things for me. I know those are kind of surface level things, but I think they're extremely important for the Chargers to pull off if they're going to win this game. Now, let's talk a little bit about some of the numbers that are important for this game. I think, like I mentioned earlier, the NFL is a game of inches. It's also a game of numbers. The numbers often tell the story. So I wanted to kind of do an inside the numbers thing for this game, and I think we'll continue to do this for future games for the rest of the season. Hopefully, you guys enjoy it, and hopefully, it's informative. So, for me, I think there are 5 key numbers the Chargers have to be aware of if they're going to win this game. They have to control the the pace of the game, not so much with tempo necessarily, but more so with number of possessions to start. So what you don't want to do, obviously, is put the ball in Joe Burrow's hands a bunch of times. Um, if you look at their wins and losses, if the Bengals have 10 or more possessions, they typically win the game. Because if they're on the field that much, they're going to have the ball for a long time. They're going to get chunk plays. They're going to move the ball down the field, and they're going to score touchdowns. They're just too good. You can't let them be on the field that often and expect to beat them. So for me, the first number is 9. The Chargers have to limit the Bengals' possessions to 9 or fewer possessions for the entire game. Um, it just it's a simple numbers game, right? If you keep them off the field, if you limit their possessions, you limit their opportunities to score, you enhance your opportunity to score. So for me, I think they have to keep the Bengals' number of possessions at 9 or fewer, to be able to keep this game to be able to play the kind of game they want to play and avoid getting into a shootout. So that's the first big number for me. Um, the second big number for me is time of possession. Neither one of these teams typically possesses the ball for a whole lot of the game. It's not like either one of them consistently dominates the time of possession. You know, the Bengals are kind of a big play, chunk play kind of offense. They score early, they score quickly. They're not really concerned with possessing the ball, time of possession. So, and the Chargers, you'd think they would possess the ball more because they are kind of a physical ground and pound offense. But as their offense has evolved, Herbert has gotten healthy. They have not had to rely on grinding the clock down so much. Well, I think that mentality kind of has to change this week. Um, obviously, if you're focused on the number of possessions the Bengals are going to have, and you're trying to keep them below 9 possessions for the whole game, uh, that means you have to possess the ball. So for me, I think the second number that's really important for the Chargers is 35. And that's because I think they have to have the ball for a minimum of 35 minutes in this game, or possess the ball for a minimum of 35 minutes in this game, in order to do what they need to do in terms of limiting the number of the Bengals possessions for the game. So my first big number, like I mentioned, is 9. Keep the Chargers under 9, or keep the Bengals under 9 possessions for the game. My second number, which goes right into that, is the Chargers' time of possession. They have to possess the ball for a minimum of 35 minutes. That would give them a 10-minute edge in time of possession in a 60-minute game. And it just really puts the Bengals at a disadvantage in terms of opportunities to score points. The next big number for me, while we are talking about the Chargers possessing the ball, is 45. And that is the Chargers must convert a minimum of 45% of their third down opportunities, while holding the Bengals below 45% of their third down opportunities. The Chargers right now are hovering right around 39 or 40%. I think they're at 38.9% third down conversions this year, which is something that I thought would be better for them. And it seems like it's starting to uptick, but they have really struggled. They've been kind of in that 40% range the last few weeks on third down, uh, the last 2 weeks for sure. So, and at home, the Chargers have only converted right around 33% of their third down opportunities. And against an offense like the Bengals, if you're only converting 33% of your third down opportunities, you're probably not going to hold the ball for more than 30 minutes, probably not even that long, and you're putting yourself at a real disadvantage. So Chargers have got to convert a minimum of 45% of their third down opportunities. The Bengals in the last few weeks are around 60% in their third down opportunities. For the season, they've been extremely efficient on third downs. The Chargers have to get the Bengals off the field, and they have to hold them to fewer than 45%. I think if they can ideally hold the Bengals to 40%, somewhere in that range on third down, the Chargers are going to be in really good shape in terms of controlling the time of possession and limiting the Bengals' number of possessions. Um, the next number for me is the number of points the Chargers score. And for me, that's 27. This team has been really good when scoring 24 or more points. I believe they've scored 24 or more points in every single one of their wins so far, and they have not in their losses. Um, I'm not sure 24 does it this week. I know the Chargers defense has been fantastic, but for me, if they can extend drives, if they can possess the ball for 35 minutes, convert on 45% of their third downs, and score 27 or more points in this game, I think the Chargers probably win this game by multiple scores. I think that's just the blueprint they absolutely have to follow. Um, and then the last number for me, and this is a big one, is 3. I think the Chargers defense has to rack up a minimum of 3 sacks if they want to win this game. We can't have Burrow sitting in the pocket, patting the ball, waiting for guys to get open. You can't be giving those receivers time to get open. You have to get in his face. You have to get him on the ground. We know Herbert. We know Joe Burrow will hold the ball. He will wait for guys to get open. He will pat the ball. And there are times where he will take really bad sacks because of his desire to hold on to the football. So get to him quickly, make him pull the ball down, make him second guess himself, get him on the ground. And I think if you hit him enough, and you get 3 or more sacks, you're probably looking at least one sack, one sack fumble, excuse me. And I think you're probably going to wind up forcing a couple of turnovers. So that is it, ladies and gentlemen. That is my preview for this game. That is the inside the numbers look at the Chargers Bengals Sunday night football game. And just to recap, inside those numbers, we had 5 key numbers for the Chargers. So the first one that we talked about was 9, and that was limiting the Bengals to 9 or fewer possessions for the entire game. Do not give them 10 or more opportunities, or you're going to be in trouble. The next one was time of possession, and that is the Chargers have to possess the ball for a minimum of 35 minutes in this game to give themselves a chance to win it. Obviously, that gives them a 10-minute advantage in time of possession. You're therefore, achieving your goal of limiting the Bengals' possessions, hopefully, to 9 or fewer for the game. The next number is 45, which is the Chargers have to convert a minimum of 45% of their third downs to win this game. And in my opinion, they've got to hold the Bengals to somewhere south of 45% conversion rate on third down. The Chargers need to score 27 points at a minimum to win this game, in my opinion. And finally, 3, the Chargers need to record at least 3 sacks to win this game. So that's it. That is the walkthrough for this week. Thank you all so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was informative. We'll be doing more of these inside the numbers looks at future Chargers games as we progress through the season. So thank you so much. We appreciate the support. Please like, follow, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you haven't already, join the Patreon and the Discord, get in on that conversation. And thank you. We will see you next time.